morning. Thank you for having me here. My name is Jetty Abraham, and I am running to be Fort Bend County Judge of the 328 Judicial District Court. It is a family law court, practicing primarily, focusing fully on family law. And what I want to say to the Fort Bend County citizenry is this: humanity can change the world. Humanity can change the world. I remember when I was in private practice, and I will let y'all know I've been a lawyer for over 20 plus years. I was in private practice, then I went to Brian Middleton's office where I'm a prosecutor now, assistant district attorney for the Fort Bend County DA's office. I remember when I was in private practice where humanity could change the world. I had a client. The client is a baby. The baby is in Texas Children's Hospital, filled with trach tubes, feeding tubes. I would go see the child and advocate for him thereafter. That is what family law is about. I remember another client. I had a mother who Children's Protective Services took her children from her. Heart-wrenching situation. And she's in the hallways of the courthouse, running up and down, screaming, crying. Bailiffs are getting involved. We have to understand what is inside a family law courthouse. Good story in that is her rights were not terminated because she needed a passionate lawyer. She needed someone, because what she was feeling out in the hallways, to bring borders and go before the court and articulate the rule of law. So that is what I stand for, the rule of law, but with fairness, equity, and compassion. Without the other three, the rule of law standing by itself is never enough. That is why I believe, based on my 20 plus years of practicing law, that I am the right candidate for the 328 Judicial District Court. And just by way of background, I am an immigrant. I came from India with my family. As a young girl, I learned English in the state of Texas. This is where I learned English, but I did not know English initially. But here I am standing before you, humbly asking to be the next candidate for the 328 Judicial District Court, because I bring my family law practice plus my years now as a prosecutor in the Family Violence Division at Brian Middleton's office, Fort Bend County DA's office. Recently, I was selected as a fellow of the state of Texas Bar Foundation. Every year, the Bar Foundation allows qualified candidates to be part of the membership. I just got inducted into it. And just by way of facts, only 1/3 of 1% of the lawyers in the state of Texas get asked to be part of this esteemed organization every year. And I just got the induction. I have trial law experience, I have passion, I have knowledge based by, and you can see that based on the peers inducting me into the professional organizations that I'm in. But most importantly, I want everyone to understand that the rule of law is foundational, it is set, and I have the competency. I excel in the rule of law, but I bring something extra, which is the compassion, the fairness, the equity before you. And I humbly ask everyone to vote for me, Jetty Abraham, for the 328 Judicial District Court. And you can find more information about who I am at jettyabraham4judge.com. And the 4 is numerical, jettyabraham4judge.com. You can also find me on Facebook.
Okay, great. First question. What are some of the biggest challenges facing the 328th District Court as you see it?
Well, in Fort Bend County right now, I know we talk about diversity a lot recently. In this day and age, we talk about diversity quite a bit. We really look at Fort Bend County, it truly is multi-dimensional, multinational. There's such diversity here. When you walk, I want the citizens to, when they walk into the 328 Judicial District Court, I want them to see an individual that they can relate to, an individual that's personable, an individual that is comfortable. That courtroom is foreign territory for most people. It's as if you're going to a foreign nation, but it's not. It's a people's court. And when you see whoever the judge is behind the bench, you should relate to them. Why? Because though I said the rule of law is paramount, fairness and equity and compassion comes from your experiences, your history, your heritage, and that which makes up Fort Bend County.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Daphne Jack, and I'm the founding CEO of Prevention Zone Inc., which is a nonprofit organization. And so my question to you is, how will you ensure that all victims of violence receive the protection and services they need, federal and state?
That is an excellent question. Thank you so much for asking that. I did mention that currently I'm actually a prosecutor in the Family Violence Division of Fort Bend County DA's office. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean we are going to put everyone in jail? From my perspective, no. My perspective is that there are times when a program is best for that individual, for the victim and the defendant. That's what justice requires. And I'm so glad you asked me this question, because that's what my life has been dedicated to, victims of family violence. Prior to coming to the DA's office, I was heavily involved in an organization called DAYA, D-A-Y-A. It's a South Asian domestic violence organization where people come in who may not have green cards or immigration status correct, but they're victims and they don't have a place to stay, they have no money, there's a huge amount of cultural issues. But one thing about violence, I will tell you, it's global and similar. Even though there are uniqueness in culture, it's about power and control, and that comes in every angle. So there are so many agencies. There's AVDA, Aid to Victims of Domestic Abuse. There's so many agencies that people don't know about that the DA's office has a lot of interaction with, and we deal with them all the time. I even remember right now when our victims come and speak to us, we are actually, especially when you speak to them in different languages that they're familiar with, when you're a victim, you're so scared, this is unknown territory, already the trauma of what they're going through. When they meet someone that can engage with them in the language that they're comfortable with, as we need in Fort Bend County, it helps them. And then we can refer them to the right resources. And in Fort Bend County, we've got those type of prosecutors. We've got Brian Middleton, who knows so much about every culture there is in Fort Bend County, such a great representative of that. And he brings people like that near him to help the citizenry. And I just happen to be lucky to be part of that. And so to answer your question directly, there's organizations in place right now that have a history of volunteering with domestic violence victims, and I reach them at a level. There's so many different. I speak English, obviously, but I also speak another language called Malayalam. It's a South Asian language. I'm from India. So I connect with people in Fort Bend County pretty well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you support a path to citizenship for young immigrants brought to the United States as children? They frequently refer to them as dreamers. Why or why not?
Okay, so I have to follow, even when you're a candidate, there are some judicial canyons that we have to follow, and rules. And since I'm all about the rule of law, we cannot, as judicial candidates, weigh in on political issues. If you're following the judicial canons correctly, you cannot do that. Rather, I would answer it this way. Since I cannot make an opinion statement on that, I would answer it this way. While the rule of law is very important, you have to think about the collateral impacts of that rule of law. And only through equality, equity, fairness, and exposure to one another, through tolerance and just engagement, because humanity, we can change the world, y'all. I really believe that. We can change, we don't have to be as divisive as what exists right now. One act of good, one act of compassion, one act of fairness, one act of kindness. That's how I learned this. That's how I learned English. I did not have ESL classes for the language that I speak when we came to this country. But one teacher who was kind changed it. And like that, that's what I would answer to your question. Since I follow the rule of law, I cannot, by judicial canons, answer that.
Okay. So how do you think colleges and universities should handle sexual assault and rape allegations, both federal, state, and local?
Yes, ma'am. That is, You know, the Fort Bend County DA's office is so heavily invested in fighting human trafficking, helping victims in all levels. We have so many divisions to help. I would answer the college situations. I think educating everyone, again, and I'm trying to be careful on how I answer it because of the judicial canons, but again, back to understanding individuals and equality and fairness and the rule of law controls at that time, what you want to do is, in any victimhood, be it domestic violence or be it sexual assault victims, you take away shame. Set away shame from people, allow resources, easy access, hotline numbers, older, peers to talk to without the shame, peers who know the law and the resources available. That is how you help college victims and all victims. Let's set aside shame and blame and help victims of trauma. That's what all this is about, trauma. Power and control, I wanted to say.
Last question. If elected, what will be your top priorities?
Like I kind of alluded to, my top priorities will always be the rule of law. It will be respecting the rule of law and following the rule of law, but changing the world, changing the inside of a courtroom, changing humanity that way, which is opening the doors to allow people to come in so they are comfortable, so that we understand fairness and equality and compassion. Those are words we throw around all the time. But action needs to happen. You have to involve people. You have to develop relationships. You have to have an open door policy where you walk into the courtroom, children, others, and see someone that they can relate to, see someone that's going to apply the rule of law, but understanding the collateral impacts and the side issues that will happen if I rule a certain way. So the top priority, while it is rule of law, it's to spread this fairness, equality, and compassion.
Fair.
What would your closing statement be?
I would ask the Fort Bend County citizens to become a force, to not let divisions separate us. There's more in common than we have. I want people to know that we as a society here, we can be on the cutting edge of changing the world. That is by one person being kind, one person interacting with another, working hard like we do. Here in Fort Bend County, we work seriously hard. We all work hard, but do that with love and compassion, fairness. Let's befriend each other. Let's get to know each other. Get to know my background. Vote for me, Jetty Abraham, for the 328 Judicial District Court.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.